think. Hopefully, he'll share a few memories about Razor Shines today, since we're going to honor him and celebrate him at Victory Field toward the end of this season. And I see Bruce is on the call, so maybe Bruce Schumacher can help tell us about that event as well. We have been fortunate for many years to learn the most interesting baseball tales from you, Howard, over all these years, not 50, but many. And we look forward to hearing more from you today. We welcome you to Kiwanis and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Mary. And this will be my 48th season, excuse me, broadcasting for the Indians. Actually, my 49th season working for them, but we had no season in 2020 due to the pandemic, although I was still working for the team. And it's an honor to be speaking to you. I look forward to it every year. This is a great club. And I also had the privilege the last couple of years of calling a game for the New York Yankees on radio. And the game I called 2 years ago, the Yankees were in Tampa and they lost the game 9-0. The game I called last year, the Yankees were in Kansas City and they were trailing 9-0 after 1 inning. So I don't know if I'm getting better or worse. But in any event, a couple of weeks afterward, a friend of mine called me and said, please do me a favor. Let me know the next time you're going to call a Yankee game. And I said, well, that's very thoughtful of you. I really appreciate that. I guess you want to listen to the broadcast. He said, no, I want to bet on the other team. So it's about having fun. We might as well start with Razor Shines, since you mentioned him. We will retire his uniform number on the weekend of September 13th, 14th, 15th. We'll honor him that entire weekend, our final 3 games of the season at home. And on Saturday, the 14th, we'll retire his uniform number. It is the first time in the history of our franchise, and the Indianapolis Indians franchise goes back to 1902. First time we've ever retired a player's uniform number. Only twice in our franchise history have we had a day for a player. Frank Sigafus in 1933 and Razor Shines in 1993. And that Saturday afternoon, the final home game of the 93 season, when we had Razor Shines Day, Razor had a couple of base hits as well as he retired after that season. He played for us from 1984 through 1993, with the exception of 1990. And he was all about winning. You know, during the 80s, and Razor played on 5 championship Indianapolis Indians teams during the 80s. And it was about winning. And guys had a great attitude. They were unselfish. They said, we'll do the best we can. We want to win, and the big leagues will take care of themselves. And that period around 1986, 87, when we were winning championships, the Colts had only been here a few years, and Reggie Miller was a rookie in 1987. The Pacers weren't very good. Razor was the most popular athlete in Indianapolis at that time. And that really spoke volumes that the Indianapolis Indians had the most popular athlete. He got a lot of big hits. He was at his best when the pressure was on because he relaxed and didn't try to do too much in clutch situations. And so he excelled. He really did. And he was our MVP in 1984. And the following year, he was in the big leagues most of the year. But unfortunately, and he was with Montreal, he tore up his leg on the final day of the season in New York, and he never could move as well after that. He only got a cup of coffee in 87 with Montreal after that in the major leagues, but then became an icon with the Indianapolis Indians and achieved so much about winning championships, getting big hits. And he also lived in Indianapolis for many years in the offseason too, now retired, living in Orlando. And we're looking forward to seeing him that weekend, September 13th, 14th, and 15th. It'll be terrific. We have the Savannah Bananas back at Victory Field. But before I go on with that, Bruce, is there anything else you'd like to add about Razor? I can't hear.
No, I'm sorry. I was having trouble finding my mute button. No, I think you covered it pretty well. I mean, he's a guy, as I've said in the past, if he was a guy who was maybe one of the best clutch hitters I've ever seen, that'd be one thing. If he was a guy who had played for us several years, that'd be one thing. If he'd been a guy who played for us on a bunch of championship teams, well, that's another thing. If he'd have been an outgoing guy with fans, which he was, but he was all those things, and that's we'll never see anything like that again. I don't think, heck, we'd never have a player that for that period of time in today's environment. But with all the things he brought to it, that's what made him so special.
I think that's really well said, and Bruce does a terrific job as board chairman and CEO. And we have Native American night too. We had that last year. We'll have that again this year. And you have the partnership that you forged with the Miami Indians.
Yeah, that'll be on May 17th, and Chief Buchanan and other members of the tribe. But we just talked to them the other day, actually, and have enjoyed that and enjoyed helping them tell their story.
Well, that's great. Anything else you'd like to add, Bruce?
No, it's your show today, Howard.
Okay, thank you. The big home opener will be April 2nd, Tuesday, April 2nd. We'll open on the road a week from tomorrow in Louisville. Home opener will be a 6:35 starting time against Memphis. We'll again have the 60-degree weather guarantee, and we opened the season earlier than we ever did these last couple of years, so there's more chance that the temperature is under 60. If it is under 60 degrees, everybody in attendance will get a free ticket to another April game of their choice. So we'll look forward to that. We'll have the Tuesday dollar menu in effect every Tuesday: hot dogs, peanuts, popcorn, Cracker Jack, $1. Concessions. I love the pizza, by the way. I love the pizza. And for the last 3 years, and this will be 4 years, we've made the pizza ourselves. And since we started making the pizza ourselves, hometown pizza, I think it's absolutely delicious. We also have a taco bar a little bit to the outfield side of that, both of which are on the first base side, the pizza and the taco. I think that is fabulous too. And so Robin, my wife Robin, says, we got all these bills of $16 on our credit card. I said, that's because I love the tacos at Victory Field and the taco bar. So concessions are really good. And we will have the Savannah Bananas again at Victory Field. They will be there. I think it's June 27th, 28th, 29th. They'll be there for 3 days. We had them for 2 days last year. If you didn't get to see them, they're like the Harlem Globetrotters in the sense that it's about having fun. For instance, if a batter hits a foul ball and a fan catches the foul ball, the batter's out. I mean, that's the way they have fun. Things like that. And so we had them for 2 games last year, and they were so popular, we sold out Victory Field. They'll be there for 3 games this coming season. And we have Swing again. That was very popular. It was on September 29th. We'll have it again this coming year. And that was a big success. That was the same night, by the way, I was in Kansas City and calling that Yankee game, which was really something, being down 9-0 in the first inning, and then having to talk for 8 innings, but we told stories. And that's one of the reasons why I love baseball broadcasting so much, is the storytelling. When I watch a football game or listen, football or basketball, watch or listen, I don't necessarily like to hear stories. I just want to watch the game. But baseball, because of the time between pitches, lends itself to storytelling. And that's so much fun and a lot of fun. And so I'll be working with Jack McMullen again. The games are on WNDE 1260 once again. You can also listen on the internet, and people listen on their phones as well. So it's a lot of fun. And yes, Mary, I've called over 6,500, and maybe, I know next year I'll hit my 7,000th game. So it's about 6,700 or 60, something like that, 6,750, 6,800, right around now. We'll figure it out. I called number 6,000 June 30th, 2017, and that was a great, great thrill. And baseball is so important to so many people. And one of the big improvements was the adding of the pitch clock. We got it in our league a few years ago. The major leagues put it in play last year. It was a huge success. It shaves about 20 minutes off the average time of games, and that's important. I wish there weren't as many strikeouts and walks as there are in this day and age, but that's part of the game. Pitchers are trying to throw very hard. One of the things I find really interesting, I did a little research, say you go back about 10 years, there were many fewer strikeouts then. And now they say with pitchers throwing harder than ever and more strikeouts, it's harder to hit than it ever was. Except that if you go back 10 years, the average ERA in Major League Baseball, team ERA, was half a run lower than it is now. So I can't quite figure all that. Pitching always was about changing speeds, hitting your spots. Now it's become, in many cases, how hard can you throw? And I remember when I was a kid, I read Joe McCarthy's 10 Commandments of Baseball, one of which was a pitcher who hasn't control, hasn't anything. So now they look for velocity, and that's the way the game has changed, and you have to change right along with the game, and you have to make the adjustments. We have some good young players, especially pitchers. The Pittsburgh Pirates remain our parent team, and they have been since 2005. So this will be the 20th consecutive year we'll work with them. Although actually 2020, we didn't have a season because of the pandemic. But the biggest name to keep an eye on is Paul Skeens, Skenes, right-handed pitcher. He was the number one pick in the country out of LSU last year. The Pirates had the number one pick. He is 6 feet 6 inches tall, and he's hit 102 on the gun fairly consistently without maximum effort. And we're not sure yet where they're going to start him. They're going to start him in the minor leagues, whether it'll be with us or with Double-A Altoona. I hope it's with us. This is a day and age that is different than years ago, where before you got to the next level, whether it was Double-A to Triple-A, Triple-A to the major leagues, you had to excel. Now, for a period of time, now quite often players are rushed. One of the reasons is there are so many injuries in Major League Baseball now, which necessitates calling up players sometimes before you'd like to. But Henry Davis was the number one pick the Pirates had, catcher out of the University of Louisville a few years ago. He only spent 10 days with us last year. So I would advise you, if Paul Skeens pitches for us, and I think he'll be with us at some point, maybe at the beginning of the year, hopefully he makes several starts, get out and see him pitch. He has a chance to be a great major league pitcher. Now, he's the head of the class, but there are several other prospects, Jared Jones pitching prospects, who have a chance to be really good. Jared Jones is another one. Now, he spent the last part of last year with us in Indianapolis, did so-so. He was great in Double-A Altoona. He has had a great spring training, and the Pirates say he may be in their rotation to start the season. Now, based on what I saw in Indianapolis last year, I would say he needs some more time here. Although I did see something very interesting that he said in the Pittsburgh papers about a week ago. He said what hurt him in Indianapolis was the automatic balls and strikes system, because it took away the high strike, which he had in Altoona and he'll have in the big leagues. And we have that ABS system, and we also have a challenge system 3 days a week. And with the ABS system, the automatic balls and strikes, everybody felt it was much too favorable to the batters. Maybe they'll tweak that a bit. And one of the reasons it was favorable is it wasn't calling, as Jared Jones said, the high strike. So he's a guy, he'll either be here to start the season or he may be even in Pittsburgh's rotation. Bubba Chandler is another right-handed pitcher who has a chance to be an excellent pitcher. He may be here to start the season. He may be in Altoona, but there's another guy to keep your eye on. Anthony Solomero, a left-hander, is another pitcher who has a chance to be a fine major league pitcher. He'll be either in Double-A Altoona or with us to start the season. So we could have a really good pitching staff as we look at the team. Henry Davis has had a good spring training with a bat, and he's been catching a lot. There was talk a few weeks ago he might be in Indianapolis as the everyday catcher, but now the talk is he may start the season with Pittsburgh, since Endy Rodriguez, who was slated to be the #1 catcher with the Pirates and was with us last year, hurt his elbow, and he's going to miss the entire season after undergoing surgery. Bruce was down in Florida last week. Is there anything you might want to add, Bruce, about any of the players?
Well, you mentioned Paul Skeens, Howard, and what a remarkable talent he is. I experienced something at the game he pitched in down there. He pitched against the Orioles prospects. They had a regular spring training game, and then as the nightcap of that doubleheader, they had a prospects game with the single-A, double-A, triple-A guys for both the Orioles and the Pirates. And when Skeens was pitching, the ballpark was as quiet as I've ever heard it. Everyone was so locked in on watching him. It wasn't your usual rowdy, noisy ballpark kind of a feel. It was more like almost a golf tournament kind of a feel. And people were, if they were talking at all, they were whispering. And I never seen so many people focused on one guy's performance in a baseball game that it made the crowd quiet.
And he pitched a scoreless inning, a 1-2-3 inning, in fact. That game was on television on the MLB Network, and I was able to watch that, as many other people were too. And it was, just terrific. And again, he's throwing that hard without maximum effort, which could be good, and hopefully he stays away from arm problems. So thanks, Bruce, for that. Bruce and Randy, we had probably about 10 people down in Florida last week. Shane Ryder, and we had a video production crew. Randy Lewandowski, president and GM, was there. So it was really good. And we're all getting ready and geared up for the season. In just a minute, I'll take any questions you might have. I think we've covered, we have groups that come to Victory Field, and we look forward to having them. They're a big part of our attendance. And I think I've covered, Bruce and I have covered most of the things. We mentioned swing. We mentioned the dollar menu every Tuesday, the Savannah Bananas, Razor Shines weekend, which is really going to be great. One of my memories of Razor, by the way, was in 1985. We had a rough year that year. We finished 61-81. But during the time he was with us, about 60 games or so, we were a 500 team, a much better team. He got clutch hit after clutch hit. And I remember him coming up left-handed one day and getting a single base hit with the bases loaded in the 9th inning. We were trailing by a couple. The next day, he did the same thing, batting right-handed. And I remember saying, Razor did it again. He did it again. And by the way, he was a natural left-hand hitter, which is unusual for a switch hitter. Almost all switch hitters are natural right-hand batters. So anybody have any comments or questions? We're happy to entertain them.
Howard, on a personal note, someone told me that your success might be because of an ice cream cone.
Oh, that's
explain that?
I'll tell that story. I got the Indians job in 1974, and Max Schumacher, as you mentioned earlier, hired me. And I was still going to college, called the games. The season ended, went back to New York to get my remaining 12 credits of my college degree. And Max said, "You did a great job. We'll have you back next season." They couldn't get the games on radio next season full time. In 75, there was no radio sponsor. They got him back on in 76, so I came back to Indiana. And now it's the winter of 76, 77, and we have no radio station again, it looks like. So it's about February 1st or so, and Max says to me, I have an idea. I don't think it'll work, but we may as well go down fighting. I said, well, what is it? He said, go to the radio station, WNON in Lebanon, that we were on last year, and tell them you'll sell the advertising for them. They don't want to broadcast the games because they're not selling any advertising. I said, Max, I'm an announcer, not a salesperson. He said, well, without a radio station, you're not an announcer either. I said, that's a good point. So I went to the radio station. Warren Wright was the general manager. And he said, all right, we'll give it a try. We also had a radio station in Franklin. We needed them both at that time, one north of the city, one south to cover the city. So Max said to me, here's what you do. Get 4 people to buy. You need to sell 8 minutes of advertising to be sold out. Get 4 people, each to spend $2,000. And for $2,000, we'll give them each 2 minutes of advertising in every game. And you get 4 people to do that, and we'll have our 8 minutes sold for the station, and everything will be fine. So, okay. Well, again, this was not beautiful Victory Field. We're at Busch Stadium. We drew about 130,000 people at that time. Now we draw in the neighborhood of 600,000. So I was knocking on doors, and I didn't know anything about sales at that time. I was knocking on doors. I was cold calling, with a phone and calling people on the phone. I remember having a meeting with a Ford dealer, and they were encouraged, but nothing happened. And now, and the season began that year, April 15th. We started later. We played 136 games then. We now play 150. And now it's about March 15th, and I haven't made a sale. And I think this whole thing's going to blow up. It's a Friday afternoon, a beautiful day in central Indiana. So I'm downtown, and I go into, I'm on the circle. I said, I'm going to have an ice cream cone. It's a really nice day. I go into Morrow's Candy Kitchen and get the ice cream cone. And the fellow says to me, what do you do down here? I said, well, I broadcast the Indianapolis Indians games. Although I said to myself, I'm hoping I don't know if I will, but I'm hoping I do. And he said, well, I'm the proprietor here. I said, oh, nice to meet you, AJ. And he said, are you doing anything downtown? I said, yes, I'm selling some advertising, trying to sell for the Indians broadcast. And he said, oh, I'd love to help you out. I love baseball. How much does it cost? I said, $2,000. For $2,000, you'll get 2 minutes of advertising in each of our 136 games. And AJ said, I'm sorry, but I don't have that kind of money. I'm sorry, I can't help you. Luckily, although I didn't know anything about sales at the time, luckily I thought of a good question to ask. And I said to him, well, how much could you afford to spend? He said about $500. I said, $500 is a quarter of 2,000. So we'll give you a quarter of 2 minutes. How about if we give you a 30-second commercial in every game? He said, great, let's do it. And he said, let's go to my sister business, Morrow's Nut House, and they'll do it too. And then I went back to Joseph Shoes, Windsor Jewelry, and the St. Moritz Steakhouse, all within a block radius there off the circle, all of whom had turned me down in 2000, came aboard for a lesser rate. And within an hour, I made 5 sales. And the moral of the story is it pays to eat ice cream cones. So if I hadn't eaten that one ice cream cone, I don't think I'd be here today. And then those sales skills, then I learned about, and the last thing on my mind at the time was making the extra commission from sales. I was just trying to save my announcing job. But then I studied it, learned it, and hopefully got good at it and helped the club along the way. And so anyway, that's the ice cream cone story. And
Great.
That was the key. I hadn't made a sale, and I think the whole thing would have gone down. So
Can you enlighten us about the controversy that seems to be surrounding the uniforms that Major League Baseball has instituted?
I know the players don't like them. That's the only thing I know. The players don't like them. They say they're see-through, and they're not too happy with them. So that's Major League Baseball's new uniforms. And, I've seen it at a few places, and it seems to be they seem to be pretty unanimous in their dislike for them. They saw a few teams quoted, and they all didn't care for them. So we'll see what kind of adjustment they make.
Great.
Howard, are there any new rules that either AAA or Major League Baseball has this year?
Well, the new rules were really last year. I don't think, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything new. They may have adjusted the pitch clock a second or two, but putting in the pitch clock was really a major thing. And the bases are bigger now too, to encourage base stealing. They've gone from 15-inch squares to 18-inch squares. So they also have a 3-batter minimum that you must face as a relief pitcher, unless you get a batter out at the end of an inning. That was put in a few years ago. I think that has helped. So I don't know if there's anything else, Bruce. There's also a rule about, this seldom happens, but where now if a pitcher goes out to the mound to start an inning, he has to face a batter. A couple of times you'd see a guy start to warm up, and then all of a sudden they take him out. And again, this is warming up on the mound, not in the bullpen. So he has to face a batter. I can't think of anything else. Maybe I'm forgetting something. Is there anything else, Bruce, you can think of?
Yeah, so I'll take a second and explain how the ABS balls and strike system works.
Yeah, that was last year, right?
So most of our homestands are six and road trips. Most of our series are 6 gamers. So the way they've got it set up is, and they're usually Tuesday through Sunday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday generally, the eye in the sky, as we call it, the electronic eye that talks about the zone. And Howard referred to this earlier, how the system is a little bit tough on pitchers, we think, and maybe hitter favorable. At least it was last year. But the first 3 games, the ABS system calls everything, and the umpire is just getting a signal, and he's signaling whatever it told him to signal. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the umpire calls everything, and teams get 3 appeals of calls, and it has to come from the catcher, the hitter, or the pitcher. And if you're right about your appeal, then you retain that challenge. If not, then you go down from 3 to 2 or 2 to 1 or whatever. But I think that is the most. They're going to go with one of the 2 systems long term in the big leagues. I think the challenge system is the way they're leaning, and I'm glad for that. I like having the human umpires call it. I think when to use your challenges is kind of interesting from a strategy standpoint. Baseball always been a game about strategy. This is one more little piece. And the other thing is, it involves the fans, because we have a nice graphic that we can tie into their system. And when a ball or strike gets appealed, it goes up on the big screen out in right field, and it shows exactly what path that pitch took and where it landed, and if the appeal is upheld or overruled. So I think that's the way they're leaning, and I'm glad, because I think that's the better system.
That's what everybody else felt too, and all of that was instituted last year. And the challenge system, as Bruce said, can get interesting with the 3 challenges. Now, when they're saved for later in the game and an important moment, I would say the majority of times that happened. That's good. But what I didn't care for is in the 2nd or 3rd inning with a 1-ball, no strike count, someone would challenge a call. That's not that good when it starts happening then. It does not take a long time. As Bruce said, they did show it on the scoreboard. It gets the fans involved, and it's fairly quick. But again, it's just not good when it's a 1-ball, no strike count, or a no ball, 1 strike count. If it's strike 3 anytime, understand why you might challenge that. But quite often it's better. Everybody with whom I spoke agreed with Bruce that the challenge system was better than the ABS system. So we'll see. And Major League Baseball is not adopting that rule yet this year. They might, as Bruce said, in the next couple of years, but they feel it needs to be tweaked more.
Well, and we have been their laboratory on these rule changes that they thought they wanted to make. They experiment with them in the minor leagues, the bigger bases, the pitch clock, and the ABS system, and we're their lab. And they already have it in mind. They want to do this. That they've got some obligation to talk to the players about it. Although I think once you lob it out to the players 1 year, if they turn it down in the second year, the owners can just implement it, is my understanding of how it works. So, but we're definitely the laboratory for new rule change ideas.
Right. And the players, by the way, were very much against the pitch clock. And it's a huge success. But the Players Association wanted to veto it. They couldn't, but it's part of the agreement. The Major League Baseball instituted it on its own, and as we said, a huge success. Attendance, by the way, was up considerably in Major League Baseball last year, and I think the pitch clock was a big reason for that.
I think I read earlier that they might institute some rulings about stealing the base and what the second baseman can do in regard to tagging and so forth. Has there been a change there in rules?
Well, that's a little technical, and I saw something about that several months ago about blocking the base runner. They've changed the rules so that both at second base and behind the plate, you can't knock down the catcher, which used to happen, and you can't go hard sliding into the second baseman. Second baseman had to have courage because they had the bat. If there's a ground ball to short or a ground ball to third, you're trying to turn a double play, you have your back to the base runner when you're covering second base. And so they changed that, and they no longer have that. Now they want to make sure you're not blocking the base runner out. So.
I have a quick question. It's great to hear the Indians at Kiwanis every year. We know that warm weather's around the corner when you guys come and present. So thanks for being here. It's always good to hear. And in a prior presentation a few years ago, you'd mentioned that Major League Baseball had made a decision to realign the farm league system, and it was going to hurt some of the teams, maybe make it hard for some of the teams to survive. So did that decision go through? If so, how has that affected the Indians and the other farm league teams?
Well, they eliminated 42 teams. There were 162 minor league teams, including rookie league ball, short season ball. They eliminated those two. Those were for players who got out of high school or college. So now instead of 162 teams, there are 120 teams. We used to have working agreements between minor league teams and major league teams of 2 or 4 years, which could be extended at any time. And now we have a PDL, it's called Professional Development License, from the Pirates, and we are with them for 10 years. This will be the 4th of the 10 years that we will be hooked up with the Pirates. And then come 2030, everything is, up for, I don't want to say up for grabs, but everything will be taken care of again and implemented.
The one difference now, kind of to amplify what Howard said, it used to be a mutual decision between the major league club and the minor league club about entering into a working agreement. Now that's all run out of the commissioner's office, and they basically tell you who you're working with. We had been working with the Pirates. The Pirates made it known in the commissioner's office, hey, we like being in Indianapolis. So we were just told, oh, by the way, you're with the Pirates, which is fine. Other than it was nice to have the ability to change if we didn't feel like we were being supplied good players and well taken care of. Obviously, Major League Baseball wants to be the one to make that decision. So when they kind of ruled in their takeover and eliminated some of these teams, that was one of the concessions they extracted.
Prior to 2021, prior to the 21 season, Major League Baseball took over minor league baseball. And so that was their doing.
Bruce, bringing it back home a little bit, can you talk about resurfacing the yard at?
Yeah, we should have talked about that.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll look that much different to the average fan. It looks great, and with every passing sunny day we get here, it looks a little bit better. But we took our field all the way down in terms of rehab, all the way down to the guts of it. The field hasn't been dealt with in this fashion since the ballpark was built in 1995, 1996. But drainage, pea gravel, sand layers, irrigation, everything was done. We've resodded before, but that was as far as it went. This time we went all the way down. I think you'll see that it'll drain a little bit better than it did, although it drained very well compared to a lot of fields. It'll drain even better now. And it's just one of those things. If you're going to be in a facility long term, this is 28th anniversary in July of moving into this ballpark. We have already played longer at Victory Field than Market Square Arena existed, and the Hoosier/RCA Dome existed. So this is a ballpark that we have to, there's certain infrastructure things you have to do periodically, and that certainly fell in that category. I'll say, Mary, while we're talking about construction briefly, we also expanded the size of the visitors clubhouse. That was another Major League Baseball mandate. They travel so many more coaches and players now than they used to. What was a good enough space for the visiting teams in 1996 is no longer large enough. So we're putting the finishing touches on that, and it's going to be quite the space for them.
Infielders just love the playing surface at Victory Field. It's been great, and we've been told by many people it's better than most of the playing surfaces in the major leagues. Joey Stevenson and the grounds crew do a wonderful job. And as Bruce mentioned, the irrigation system, putting in a new irrigation system usually only is done when you have a new ballpark. But they felt it was time, and they've done it. And as Bruce said, it's come along. Looking a few months ago, looking outside, and saying, how are they going to get that thing ready? They must know what they're doing. And they do, and it will be ready.
Howard and Bruce, thank you both for joining us. Wondering what next year, we hope to have you back. Would there be an opportunity to come out to the stadium and see some facilities and have you speak to us out there? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I think we can certainly look into that.
Back in the day, when you first opened the new stadium, Max gave us an opportunity to have a tour. We toured the locker rooms, the infield. It was just the most exciting thing for our club to do because of Max. So it's long overdue that we come back and tour it again. So if you can make that happen, we certainly would appreciate it next year.
As long as we can have some tacos and pizza, that'd be okay.
There you go. Go for it, Greg. Well, I want to thank both of you for coming today. And Howard, we are going to provide a donation in your name, in your honor, to 100 cameras for 100 kids. And their mission is to provide 100 deserving kids with cameras each year, fostering creativity, self-expression, and the development of important life skills. Through the lens of a camera, they can tell their stories, document their journeys, and explore the world around them in an entirely new way. We thank you so much for being with us today. And again, we look forward to next year.
Well, thanks to all of you so much. It's always an honor.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, glad you could be with us today. All right, dad joke of the day. Singing in the shower is fun until it gets soapy. Then you just have a soap opera. And with that, remember, no meeting next Thursday, but basketball at Primo's next Friday. And we are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day.
Keep up the jokes, Mary. They're a riot.
You got 5.5 more months of me. You can deal with it. I promise. Bye-bye.